Greetings, everyone. Here I am for my birthday broadcast. So, I was given some questions to answer. What does 2020 look like for Petersen Games? Asked Christian. Okay, Christian, here's what it looks like for us. Early in the season, we will have Demon Sultan and Bubastis shipped for our final onslaught. Planet Apocalypse and Startropolis will already be out. We'll be starting up with a lot more campaign packs like Ghoul Island. Probably starting in February, we're going to get a steady stream of them going. Initially, it's either going to be Spawn Dance or Yig Snake Granddaddy, followed by whichever one isn't first, and then Dark Worlds, and then Have You Found It, and then we have more going on after that. We have a game planned called Dinosaur 1944 and maybe some others. So 2020 looks like it's going to be pretty big. We're also going to do a number of new kids games, like Tooth Fairy, if you're familiar with that one, for our Larva Games line. We're going to add Mary the Monster, the Seven Vampires, or the Seven Brothers, things like that. Who is my favorite Lovecraftian character, and why does he resonate with me? And my favorite Lovecraftian character, and to be fair, he's not my favorite by very much, because I like a lot of these guys, but he's Richard Upton Pickman, the artist, and I think it's because this is a person who has been delving into dark corners and gone too far, and this is kind of, I set this up as a warning to myself. Now, most of Lovecraft's characters are actually pretty bland, such as Randolph Carter or Henry Armitage or Albert Wilmarth, and I think that's intentional. Lovecraft wants them to be bland so you can project your own personality onto them. But since Richard Pickman doesn't have to be you, he's not the protagonist, he can be as eccentric and weird as you want, so it's a rare chance to see a weird guy. What is the story and the lore behind Azathoth's forms known as Thesis, Antithesis, and Synthesis? Okay, Johann Fichte invented this term, and I like it because it's a non-science way of determining truth. Typically, the science way is you make a hypothesis, and then you do experiments upon experiments to confirm or deny your hypothesis. Or if you're sloppy science, you just keep doing the experiment again until you get what you want. But with the thesis, you end up with a statement that is positive. Then the antithesis is another statement that is the opposite of this positive. And the synthesis is when you find out what is truth in both of them and bring it into a whole. And this seems very Azathoth-y to me, in that in Lovecraft stories, you have people saying, this is the truth, this is the way the world really works. Then you find out that's not there's this other truth that's there too, but there's a synthesis in Lovecraft stories where the character says, well, we are happier believing the former lies and, that kind of thing. So it's done really well at the end of Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, where Randolph Carter, knowing that the world is controlled by the blind idiot Azathoth, flees home to live on Earth and say, this is truly what makes me happy. So that's why I picked those three forms for Azathoth. And it was the forms came first. I said, I want Azathoth to have multiple forms that develop. And really, he's got 6 forms in it, because there's the larvae, then there's the adults. I thought having more than 3 great old ones would be really tough to manage in Cthulhu Wars. So I picked 3, and then I said, what shall these 3 be? And then the Hegelian trio came to mind, and that was it. What is my favorite mythos beastie? I guess I'm going to have to go with the old standby of Cthulhu, simply because I have a giant original oil painting of him on my wall, and my original game, a Lovecraft game, was the Call of Cthulhu. There he was, and he's kind of been the founder of the feast of the Petersen household. He is the source of our power, so yay Cthulhu. I know he's not the most powerful of all the creatures in the mythos. I know he's not. I know other things have other interesting features, but Cthulhu's pretty interesting, and anyway, I like him. Okay, your cat decided that you had to let him on my desk, and he thought Sandy was not important. Well, you have to go with what your cat says, Scott. because Lovecraft loved cats. Now, I have dogs, and Lovecraft is very clear about dogs. He says only an unimaginative, slavish, Teutonic mind would like dogs, and dogs are for losers. So there it is. Am I working on anything top secret right now? Yes, I'm working on the totally top secret game that's called Dinosaur 1944. This is a either cooperative or team-based game, and I say or because you can play it either way, in which the U.S. Marines are getting ready to, or maybe Army guys, they're getting ready to attack an island in the Pacific in 1944 that they've heard the Imperial Japan was doing something on, and they landed. There's no Japanese there at all. Instead, it's dinosaurs, and so you have to fight dinosaurs. When I was growing up, there was a lot of comics that were dinosaurs versus Army men, and I think it's because one of the main toys we had as a kid was we had plastic Army men, and we have plastic dinosaurs. So what are you going to do if you're 8 years old and this is your toys? They're going to fight each other. So we did. And so this is a game of that where one team is the dinosaurs if you're playing team-based. Normally, you play co-op and you're all Army men fighting out dinosaurs. But you can play team-based in which you have Army men versus dinosaurs. And because I love dinosaurs and want them to always be okay, I decided that I couldn't just have this be the last house of the dinosaurs like in Maple Whiteland or something, and so I had these dinosaurs have been brought through time by mad scientists. So the mad scientists get evil, and then it's okay to kill these dinosaurs, except maybe you can't because they're tough, and the boss is a Tyrannosaurus. So you have the evil mad scientists making dinosaurs to fight. And I decided also that the Yithians might be involved too, but we'll see about that. So it's dinosaurs versus Aryan, and that's that game. And so I think that's top secret. It should be fun. My favorite Stuart Gordon Lovecraft adaptation, probably Dagon. I really like Dagon a lot. I think it's very close to The Shadow over Innsmouth. It even has the thing in the middle of it where in the story Lovecraft has the character has to unscrew the lock and move it to another door, and he actually does this in the movie, which I love. I also love the fact that in Dagon it's always rainy or drizzling when you're in the city of Innsmouth. They call it Imbolca, but it's Innsmouth. And I also love that no one in the entire, I didn't pick this up till like the third time I watched it, no one in Imbolca ever blinks. No one blinks at all, and that was cool. So I liked it a lot. And it has the worst hotel I've ever seen in a thing, so that was great. TGW has huge pieces, so it weighs a lot. What are the chances of a series of novels about Aurora Ultraviolet's adventures? Well, we have a science fiction author on tab right now who is finishing up his latest novel, and he's a published author. He has 7 books out already, and he loves hyperspace, and he's doing a series of novels. He's got plans. He's signed up for 1 novel, and then he has plans for 2 more beyond that. So, and the first novel is Aurora Ultraviolet on her spaceship with her crew. Hank is Handy, who is a Vork engineer, her cyber dog, Riley, who has a cybernetic enhanced bark, so you can hear it wherever you are. She has her niece, and the niece shows up in one of the, I think, the Collector's story, where which is on our website, where she's trying to get her niece back from the Collector, and the Collector doesn't want to give her back because the niece is really special. And then Aurora figures out that the niece is special because she's dyed her hair green because she's like emo-y. And the Collector thought it was actual green hair, which is rare in humans. And it gets all mad when it finds out that she tricked her. It said she didn't trick you. She doesn't want to be kidnapped by monster aliens. Anyway, so the niece is in the story, and she has she also has a Zepzeg with her to help manage the crew and stuff, because Zepzeg are very sensitive to people's feelings. And then what's going on is that there is a war between the Broodmasters and the Dacians, and she's trying to resolve it or keep it from happening. So that's the plot, as far as I know. Oh, I'll talk about Mary the Monster. So Mary the Monster is a larva game. So Petersen Games is starting to divide into 3 things, and it's not Thesis, Antithesis, and this. There's the regular Petersen Games with the giant strategy games that we all love. Or not always giant, like 8-Bit Attack isn't giant, but it's a strategy game. And then there is larva games, which are games for kids, like Tooth Fairy. And Mary the Monster is one of the next ones. And in Mary the Monster, what happens is there's this Welsh monster called the Fachan, F-A-C-H-A-N. Do not pronounce it in a bad way. And the Fachan has 1 arm and 1 leg and 1 eye and 1 tuft of hair. And so obviously my son figured this out. There can only be one Fakan because he's one of everything. So the Fakan is lonely because there's only one of them. So in the game, what you're doing, you're trying to build these cities in this landscape. And what you can do is, if you want to destroy your neighbor cities, you can erect a cardboard cutout of a female Fakan, and he'll charge right to it, going across all the things in the way, destroying every city till he gets to where the thing is so he can marry her. And of course, it's always a fake cardboard cutout, or it's made of straw or snow or something. So he gets mad and he destroys your city too. But you don't care because he destroyed more of their cities than yours coming to you, is the idea. So you keep going through it, trying to constantly build your cities while you're tricking the Fakan into going and blowing up your enemies. So there's that. So anyway, I mentioned there was 3 aspects to Petersen Games. There's going to be the Petersen Games with the regular things like, 8-bit attack. And then there's going to be Larva Games, which is for kids. And the symbol for that is like a little fairy coming out of a cocoon because it's a larva, right? And then the third is going to be our role-playing stuff. And we've already begun this with our Cthulhu Mythos for Pathfinder, Cthulhu Mythos for D&D 5e, and now Ghoul Island, but there's more coming. We have a person right now translating Sandy Petersen's Cthulhu Mythos into the Dark Eye game system, which is prevalent in Europe, primarily Germany. And we're working on a Sandy Petersen's Planet Apocalypse for 5e. And so this is the Planet Apocalypse game, as you know, is, of course, when hell rises up to wipe out all the world. And so the idea behind this is it's not just a bunch of demons to add to your campaign. I mean, you can use it to add demons to your campaign. But the idea behind the Planet Apocalypse is that you're playing your D&D world, and maybe you're kind of interested in starting up a new world. You want to play in Ravenloft or something, or some other place. And you're kind of tired of your campaign, maybe, or maybe not. But you want to really jazz it up. So Planet Apocalypse is about the destruction of your campaign world. Hell rising up and destroying your campaign and your whole world. And if the players win and it's not destroyed, that's great too. But that's what it's about. And then if they save the world and you decide to keep playing in the world, then you still have the leftover demons to play with in the world. But it's all about a campaign built up to destroy your game world, because we thought that would be cool and original, and it makes sense with the apocalypse thing. So we're coming out with that. And starting probably in February-ish, we're going to be releasing one 50 to 60 to 70 page adventure act for like Ghoul Island every month. And we have them backed up for more than a year, and we're writing them at a rate that keeps up. And this will keep on going forever. So you'll be able to, and each month there's either 3 or 4 adventures. So if you play about once a week, then this will keep you busy indefinitely. How long is the typical development cycle from design to production to sale for one of my games? Design time is probably about 2 years for me. It's about a year of getting the design hardened, and then about a year of obsessively playtesting it till I'm happy with it. The production, we've kind of changed our style over time. We used to be that the game, we'd do the Kickstarter when the game wasn't quite finished, but it was mostly finished. Like maybe the add-ons weren't done, but the game was. But now we don't do that anymore. For some time, all of our games have to be completely finished and production ready before we put on a Kickstarter. So that's one of the reasons that doing Hyperspace isn't slowing down God's War 2, because it was already done. Everything was done. It was all balanced. It was all tested. It was all ready to go, and everything was laid out. So then with this new regime, then what happens is that as soon as the game funds, we immediately start producing the molds, and so that usually is like 3 to 4 months. It's longer in a game that has more molds. And Hyperspace had quite a few. It had like 60 or 70 molds, and then when the molds are done, then they start producing the figures, which takes only a couple of weeks. And then at that same time, we print the paper parts of it, which don't take very long to do. Then they collate it, and so say 3 months to do the molds and get everything collated, maybe 4 months. And then they send it on what so far has always seemed to be the very slowest possible boat from China to the rest of the world. So that's like 2 months, and then once it hits our shores, if it's not held up in customs, which sometimes it has been, and we have no control over that. Then they do a pick and pack. I think that's where they do it, and then it goes from there to all the people, and it's whatever your mail service does. And usually in most first world country, mail service is pretty quick. So how many games are working at any given time, AxeNat? I typically work on 2 main games and an expansion for something else. So right now, for example, on my plate, I finally finished 8-Bit Attack. I'm working on God's War 2. Actually, that's pretty much done. I just have to vet the art for that. I'm helping Lincoln with looking at if we're going to do an Evil High Priest 2. I am toying vaguely with Hyperspace 2 that may come in someday, depending on how Hyperspace does. I got Dinosaur 1944. I got a top secret game I can't talk about, but it's co-op. And then I also have the ongoing role-playing stuff. Have You Found It? Which is about the yellow sign and the future things on there. So those are what I'm working on right now. I actually have kind of a light load for me at this time. It'll probably get tougher later on. Our customer base does seem to be growing. I think it would grow even better if we had better customer support. And frankly, we've been dinged enough on the customer. Every time we get someone complaining about it, it pains me. I mean, I want people to love me because if I didn't want people to love me, I wouldn't be a game designer. I would be a lawyer or something. But so hopefully by increasing the staff, I will be more loved, and then I can do more events like this. What would I do if I wasn't designing tabletop games? Well, what I went to school to do was to teach zoology. So I guess I'd be an obscure zoology teacher at like some community college somewhere. Kaiju attacking a city, super giant monster showdown. Well, here's the deal with doing kaiju. If we could ever get the license for a real kaiju license, we would probably want to do it. But I don't want to do fake kaiju. I want like Gamera or Ultraman or something. So, because I like Gamera and Ultraman and obviously Godzilla. And of those of you who have not seen the 1990s Gamera movies, then I recommend them strongly because they are, much as I love Godzilla, these are the greatest giant monster movies ever made, with the possible exception of the original Godzilla and the original King Kong. Well, it is now 5 minutes after the hour, and I am going to sign off. Thank you all, and I have had a happy birthday, and this has enhanced it even more. Take care, all.